Hello, welcome to application number 4, my final presentation. Now for this application, we are going to actually look at how disliked was the removal of the dislike button for videos by YouTube users. Now the question about how disliked it was our poll question, but our data was collected actually by posting that poll on Reddit, where fellow website members can vote on the poll and even upvote the poll, which means even more people can vote on it. Now, after collecting all of that data, we're actually going to do something with those numbers. And the first thing is to look at the sample size. And the sample size is all the people who were actually voting on that poll. And that number is 5,600 people. Now we're going to take it a step further and actually find our sample proportion, or P prime. And that actually, how we find that out is that we take 5,300 people who disliked the removal of the dislike button and divide that by 5,600, which actually gave us our percentage of 0.9465, or translated into percentage is 94.64%. Now we're going to look at P prime and Q prime. We're going to put those back in decimal form because it's just a lot easier to deal with in the calculations. P prime is our sample proportion, which we just figured out, which is 0.96428,571. And Q prime is actually 1 minus that, 1 minus P prime, which is 0.053571. And then our last thing that we're going to look at is our confidence level. And what a confidence interval, sorry, not confidence level, confidence interval is how confident do we want to be in our sample data and our statistics that we give out about this data and how it equals out to the population proportion. And we're going to stick to a solid 95 confidence. And to do 95 confidence, we're actually going to have a z-score, a critical score, of 1.960. Now this is our big important formula that we're going to use by taking all those numbers that we just had and put them actually in the formula. So EBP is actually our error-bound proportion, and that's going to be our critical score times the square root of our P prime or P hat times Q prime, Q hat, divided by N, which is actually our sample. Now, before we actually get to our statement, let's take a look at our table of numbers again. So the confidence level that we're using is 95%, which actually equals out to a critical error score of 1.960. And then we plugged all of our numbers into that previous formula that we did actually with P prime times Q prime divided by the sample size, square root all of that, and times that by our critical error score. And that actually gave us our margin of error of 0.003. Now with that big important number, we're actually going to go back to our proportion, our sample proportion number, and we're going to add and subtract 0.003 from that number, which will ultimately give us our upper bound and our lower bound. So we're going to do that very first sample proportion number plus 0.003, and it will equal out to 0.9523. And equally so, we're going to take that sample proportion number, our P prime, and minus it 0.003. We're going to subtract that, and that will equal 0.9405, which actually leads us to the statement that we can say is that we are 95% confident that the population proportion of YouTube users are not fans of the removal of the dislike button is between 94.05% and 95.23% of the population. Just like all surveys and samples taken previously in all the past, there are mistakes being made. And those are the issues we're going to address right now. And the first is that this was a convenience survey biased to YouTube users who actually use Reddit. So it's not just based on the YouTube users. It's on YouTube users who are on Reddit. And the second is the wording of the poll was biased as well and left vital information out. So actually, it just asked who disliked the removal of the dislike button and did not give any information that actually it was the creators who are in charge of the interface. They're the ones who are in charge of the presentation of the button being there or not. And then this was a third-party survey that did not reach all demographics that use YouTube, whether it's for education, entertainment, or lifestyle. You have to imagine how many people actually use YouTube. There's all different demographics, but this targeted only a small demographic, which left it as biased as possible and not random at all, which we need a really random sample to give us the most similar, quote unquote, similar to our population proportion. We're trying to get our sample as close to our population. And this was not the way to do it at all. The big thing that can be fixed and addressed is the inaccessibility to all general topic viewers of the video site to view this poll and to have as much say on this as they can. It's not just Reddit users who also use YouTube. It's those who are actually reaching out to YouTube and who are using those videos at that time. And this can be redone on YouTube survey. So YouTube actually offers many surveys before their videos instead of ads. And those are given at random, and they can be given at random before the start of the videos. And secondly, you're able to get the opinion of a random topic viewer. So the amount of different channels and what they provide is so different that you won't be able to actually pull them unless you can reach all of them at the same time, which would honestly be the YouTube survey. And then lastly is change the wording to something similar to do you agree with the option of adding or removal of a dislike button being at the creator's disclosure. So it's giving them the information that it's not completely removed, but it's at the creator's disclosure.